isn't the right thing to do. And how can I ever change things that I feel? If I could, maybe I'd give you my world. How can I, when you won't take it from me? You can go your own way. You can call it unknown. You can go your own way. Go your own way. Tell me why everything turned around. Packing up, jacking up, so you won't do.
Oh, there's windbreak.
If I could, maybe I'd open up. Everything's waiting for you. You can go your own way.
Somebody's doing it.
You can call it unknown. You can go your own way.
And that's his mum, my grandma, which passed away from cancer. And that's Bob. And that's Carol, my auntie Jo.
You can call it unknown. You can go your own way.
Happy birthday, Dad. We're thinking of you, and we know that you're here with us too. We can feel you. Oh my God, you're so great. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because Dad was sick, and he was not getting any better, and it was just like, come down.
I did bring a few photos of it, but most of them I couldn't get out of those old scrubby albums, and a lot of them had me, and I thought that was
Don't ring them.
well,
All
we
the
just
best,
tried.
We're all here, as you know, to celebrate David Verge's life and his birthday, which is today. I've known David since 1972 or something like that, just before he moved to Marahau. And he was a very good friend of my husband John and I for many years. We did a lot of things together. We spent a lot of time in Marahau, as many of you did, of course. And so he was He was a lovely man. There were some problems, as we all know, and there were some ups and downs, but he did have a warm heart. In fact, he used to always say, because his hands were very cold a lot of the time, cold hands, warm heart. I only have two little stories, but probably the one that I remember was that David was at our house having breakfast when he got the phone call to say that his father had died. And he was very, very sad and very upset and wasn't sure whether he should fly back or not fly back. And I don't know what he did, but I'm sure that Ruby here will remember. Did he go back, Ruby? He did go back in the end, yes. Even though we all said, well, your father's gone, but he wanted to be there for the funeral, so he did fly back. But he was quite shattered, and he hadn't seen his father for quite some time, I think, when he heard that he died. So that's one memory I have, and a number of others, but probably I won't share those. So now, I think Tara over here. Tara was with him, I think, right up to the end. Tara was there when he passed, and they talked quite a lot in the last few days. So Tara would like to say something. Tara, come up here and Tara go.
Don't please. Hello, can you hear me? David Verge. I have known you all of my life, a friend to me since childhood, growing up on the farm, and still a friend till you took your last breath. The last coherent thing you said to me was, "Stay beautiful." So I hold that in my heart with your love and all of the memories. You belong amongst the wildflowers. You belong on a boat out at sea. You belong with your love on your arm. You belong somewhere where you feel free. So now you are free. And happy birthday to you. We love you, and I'll miss you.
Now, who would like to speak next? What about the family? Anyone in the family would like to speak next? Carol? Carol Bean, mother of one of David's children, and this gorgeous lady has known him for many years, so here's Carol.
I met David Verge in Santa Cruz in California in 1968. I can safely say I'm the only person in the room who's known him that long, except for Cheryl, his sister, who is going to watch this video. She's in Vancouver and she's here in spirit. So Cheryl, we love you. Hi, Cheryl. So in California, 1968 was the summer of love. Oh dear. Guess what happened? She happened. Jennifer, who is Baudra's mother, more of that comes later, introduced me to David in Santa Cruz, and then she took off to go back to her family on the East Coast. So David and I had both just returned from North America, from separate trips to the UK and to Europe, and we had lots of stories to tell each other. But his stories were funnier than mine, because he was funny. David was funny. He prided himself on getting people to laugh and or simply just smile. And he was quite handsome. If you could see those photos on that back wall, that's the stud photos. These are the sort of family photos that, the Italian singer, love song, romantic photos. And look at Boja, how gorgeous he is. I know, he made a beautiful boy. Oh yeah, that's my next sentence. You just need to look at his gorgeous children to see his DNA. He was always interested in what made people tick, what they thought. But then again, maybe that was my mini skirt that he was interested in. Anyway, we hooked up. Our first excursion was to San Francisco for me to go and see John Fahey, who is a guitar player who I absolutely adored, and for David to go see Malcolm X. So we made it out there to San Francisco on this amazing date. John Fahey, one side of the spectrum, Malcolm X on the other side. But we made it out alive, came back and moved into the Santa Cruz Mountains and to a little cabin. 9 months later, my baby was born. And that was the end of that little phase of my life. David was a lovable rogue, okay, we all know. We all know and have experienced that side of him. And there's some certain trepidation in the room about stories we could tell about David Verge. But I'm just going to move on from there. So in 1970, I moved to Vancouver Island to help Jennifer birth her first child, Shanti, who is Bodra's sister. And she and David had married. And a year later, 10 of us from Vancouver Island moved to New Zealand. It was like a flock of Canadian geese, all coming over together, all coming to the land of milk and honey, a place where there is zero unemployment, and a place that was the southern seas. It was tropical. It was like an island paradise. And it was autumn, and it was freezing, and it was fucking freezing. So I'm taking credit for the migration because I always had wanted to live in New Zealand, and my brother already lived here. So I talked everybody into it. So David and Jennifer settled at Marahau near McDonald's farm, where Jennifer asked me to come and help her with the birth of her son, Bodra. That is this picture. This is baby Bodra, and this is me, the midwife. Shanti, his sister. We were one big happy family, and Jyoti's sitting on my lap. That's amazing. I look back on this, oh my God. Okay. So it was there at Marahau that David showed us the farm across the river. Stephen Tate was there as well. And we all said, yes, let's go for it. There were many people involved in the story from here on, and you can see here on the wall. But two of these people have sent tributes for me to read out loud. One of them was Claudia Miller. She put money into the farm. She was an early farm person. These are her words. Sad news indeed, a flash from the past, letting all those memories loose in my mind. What times we had, and what a blessing for both Jyoti and Verge to have her close by in the end. Oh, I wasn't going to cry. And words from our friend George. I don't know if any of you remember George, but hands up for George. Yeah. Woo! Oh my God, most of the room. So these are his words. Memories of Verge are necessarily associated for me with Marahau. He and Jennifer were the only people living there on my first visit around 1972. Marahau was then my starting point to walk the Able Tasman, and I stopped with them for a night before setting out. Thanks for the introduction, Carol. Verge was welcoming in a way that became common in our numerous encounters. My first Able Tasman walk wasn't successful, and to clarify, George had cerebral palsy, and he traveled around the world, a very courageous man and a wonderful guy, very funny. So I returned to Marahau, where Verge consoled me in his usual way by giving me a joint. So I'll leave off here. Many of you know I'm an archivist with a prodigious memory, and all the whys and wherefores are up here. So you can talk to me later, because I know everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. That really put us in the picture there. Bodra, are you ready to speak? Here he comes. This is Bodra, David's son, and I'm sure he's got some very interesting stories to tell you.
So I've typed it out, and I'll do my best to orate it nicely. All right. So here we are, gathered together to celebrate a man whom, strangely, each and every one of us, including myself, thought might outlive us all somehow. But here we are. All of you knew Verge in your own way, but I knew him as his son. And I must say it's been an incredible journey of self-discovery with him. Hand in hand, heart holding heart, all our truths, our humanness exposed to one another. the wonderful realness of fumbling with a lack of eloquence at times. We held each other. It's really hard to put into words what a privilege it was to share with anyone in this manifestation, let alone the man who brought you into this world. That's the deeply contemplated summary that one only comes to when a son farewells his father onto the next realm, when a son's father dies, when he is left a 51-year-old orphan, longing for one last feel of your hands, to hear the sound of your voice, so special to me. To think again, I should really record this guy so that such a wordsmith's tales are not lost in the passage of time, because his stories are really something. He had so many stories, our Verge, many that made you think, oh, here we go again. But so many woven into a deep, rich tapestry by someone who had truly sipped from the divine cup of the universe, comfortable in the company of kings, comfortable in the streets with beggars and thieves. A man who wandered in awe through the temples and gazed in wonder at the myriad of expressions, abhorrent and divine, taking place on this planet, on this journey called life. Dad was many things to each and every one of you, but for me, he was my best friend. We got to marvel at the fact that we were father and son, but we were kindred spirits who saw the universe through the same pair of eyes, who deciphered life in a very similar way. We got to hold hands so many times and press our heads together and shed tears at the incredible gift of connection. We were father and son, but we were one. So special. Verge loved people so deeply, but he was a solo traveller. He liked his life and his things the way he wanted them. But he had an enormous capacity to love others, generous and, dare I say, reliable, when he wanted to be. He was fiercely protective of his loved ones. Dad lived a life you could truly make a movie about, a Shantaram-esque tale of his own, with just as many embellishments. I was born in Marahau Valley in 1971. My dad and mum, together with others, founded what would become the Marahau Valley Farm. Well, Verge did, with my mum's carefully guarded inheritance that he had just discovered she had hidden away from him. Along with a few other key cool cats, one being Carol, my sister Jyoti's mum, who delivered me into this world. How cool is that? The 70s, eh? My mother left with me and my sister Shanti when I was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. Someone in this room will be able to affirm when it was. Carol. So I missed all those grooving years of Dad's life, that most of you lived. You're all my insight into the parts of my father's life that I missed. And I'm so grateful, for now I see that he was as precious to others as he was to me. Sure, he was a rogue, but he was a voracious lover, liver of life, protector, instigator. A life lived to the limit, a legend. I look around this room, I get the picture. Each and every one of you carry a piece of the story of David Verge's life. And we would love, to hear and see tales, pictures, anything you can share of his life, the man who lived 1,000 lives. Please share with us in whatever format you can, photos, written stories, anything you want to share with me and Jyoti and our families, please do. We want to see who our father was through your eyes. But hey, there's no complaints box. So only positive memories, please. David, Dad, Verge, I'm sure you will keep the next world entertained till we arrive. Dad always told me later in his life to love and to try to keep hold of people. So from me, my sister Jyoti and her husband Mike, my amazing wife Debs, who has been the glue of our family, guiding us all through our grief and niggles into a place of love and acceptance. Thank you so much, my love. Our beautiful daughter Nina, Verge's granddaughter, who has been amazing, holding my face in her hands, telling me, he's not gone. Dad's all around us. Thank you, my beautiful girl. So from all of us, our most heartfelt love to all of you for your loss. Please come and fill us up. Breathe him back into me with your memories, your stories, for I miss him so, and I need to visit him through you. Dad, I long to sit beside you one more time. To press my forehead against yours like we used to do and hear you softly say to me, God is love. I wasn't prepared. I could never be prepared to not have you here. I long to sit beside you one more time. I long for one more story. Your magical laugh, your soft loving voice reassuring me, saying my name, Bodra. I long to make you one more cup of tea in the morning. Milk, 1 and not quite a half sugars. Tea bag left in and the teaspoon left in too. One more endless night. One more time, pressing our heads together. May the long-time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. We love you.
Something moment here. Thank you, Bodra. That was the most beautiful account of David's life and your relationship with him. Really close to it.
Now, I feel like maybe I shouldn't be speaking before other people, but here I go. So I met Verge when I was 16 with Jean-Claude, his friend, and I won't go into the details, but I will say that he was instrumental in my sexual education. But I do have a cleaner story from my daughter Harley, who said that his party trick was, well, by the way, I'm Trudy Tay. His party trick was eating live hoo-hoo grubs and spurting out all the juices on people around him. So that's all I've got to say.
My name's Maureen, and I knew about Dave in the 70s when I lived in Dovedale and I was associated with Sunday Creek Farm. But I didn't really meet him until late 1988, early 89, and they were an intense few months. I was staying at Maraho Farm at a crossroads in my life and was drawn into Dave's web of lovers and friends. His caravan was a hub, a magnet for all sorts. And here I want to read a poem that I wrote. I have a diary that I kept from that time, and this is a poem about his caravan. I have watched for hours the passing parade of richly diverse human beings, mates, friends, lovers, would-be lovers, the unknown and the known, all welcomed into your caravan with warmth or banter and given a special place to relax in and to share your beer and dope and pulsating heart that masquerades in foolishness or invective or ravings long into the night. You weave your magic with the fine-tuned grace of a craftsman. And I have watched the energy change the moment you have left with white plastic bags in your hands or water systems in your head. The atmosphere suddenly male, more crude, more volatile, with a raw-edged pub-like flavour, slowly losing momentum without the woman-man host, holding the balance, softening the exchanges, and allowing the alchemy like a high priestess. And I've watched myself sitting still and calm after the men left in search of other excitements, myself alone in your caravan, its life dancing in my being with grateful silence. It wasn't till I reread my diary from that time that I finally acknowledged that we had actually been lovers. There it was in black and white, but I don't really remember that part, because mostly we were friends, more like brother and sister. I felt cared for by him, and there was an enormous range of feeling in our dance. He read poetry to me, especially Charles Bukowski, whom I hadn't heard of until that time. We slept together, more like children than lovers. I loved him. He challenged me to be real, to be fully human, to be me. There were light-hearted comments like, "And when are you going to drop your mask, Maureen?" He didn't pull any punches about himself either. I'm trouble. I'm a womanizer, a bastard. All of which I ignored, though all were true. What I saw was a deeply spiritual man, an amazing soul, with the he was both magician and fool, with the very ordinary in between. His spates of flipping out at that time were not my experience, but he did walk a razor's edge for a while, perhaps like all these deep thinkers seeking the ultimate. He gifted me presence and aliveness. Yes, this complex man reconnected me with the vitality of aliveness, and that for me was a turning point and a healing after a difficult few years before. It brought me back to New Zealand from Australia to live. His validation of me gave me strength to follow my heart. I only twice visited him after moving back to Nelson in 2017. I still saw I still saw the warmth and softness of old. It was not beer, but tea and biscuits and a good old catch-up, as if no decades had passed. I'd like to finish with quotes from Dave that I've stolen beside in my diary. He must have left them on the caravan table when off outside on a mission. It is me. I come this way. I go this way. All my life I will have peace, or 'tis all a fake. The joke's on me, failing that. To have dreamed of paradise and to be given a flower, so that you will know upon awakening, be it still in your hand, that your soul travelled there. What is this mystery? When can I be more than I? My life will be my life, none other. I shall seek the impossible. I will climb the stairway, beloved by the exquisite architect that I share this place. Rejoice in the company of your fellow beings. Share in life's heart. God is love. Love is God. Coming and going, I remain the same and changed. Going and coming, I remain the same, transformed. Let the mystery unfold. Thank you, Dave. I celebrate you. I know you found the peace that you long ago craved.
Thank you, Maureen. That was lovely. And it was really nice that you shared all those thoughts of David and his quotations. Now, I think Jyoti, David's daughter, might be ready to say hello to you all and tell you about her relationship with David. Jyoti, are you going to come up here?
This lovely lady here gave Dad a renewed faith that he was loved, and by his own words, my fuckwittery might have undone me. And the fact that he'd written that she'd written the letter, which I only found when my husband and I, Mike, after Dad's stroke, realised that we needed to be closer, and we moved to Nelson from Wellington. And I was going through his side bits, and there's all sorts of letters, and there was a few unopened ones. Danny, sorry about that. He did know about your party, but he hadn't even opened the invite. He couldn't even open his phone at that stage. But I read out the poem of Maureen to Dad, and his light in his eyes just was like, and I could see he remembered those days. And they were the days that I was off travelling overseas. I'd found Verge and spent some time travelling around the world, going to find out all the places that my mum and my dad had actually come from, so I did the world in reverse. But this lovely lady, Maureen's words and her memories that she shared with him, while he was in a space of not knowing how to reconnect with you guys, technology and his phone was really messing with him. After his stroke, he just didn't know how to reconnect with a lot of people, and it gave him peace, and it gave him enough spark, I think, to start reaching out to people. In fact, we got a call, Mike and I, one night, your dad's down in the car park in his robe outside New World. And I was like, does he have his clothes on underneath? And they're like, yeah, and he's got a bottle of wine in his hand. I'm like, no, he's fine, he's off on a date somewhere. So, you know, as in his last 6 months, he really started to spark up, and there's some people started dropping by. We started getting his phone working and stuff. And Maureen, I just wanted to, when I shared it with Verge, it was like, it's too late to email us. So Verge went around and she's here, and just thank you, because that God is love. And that's partly what I wanted to share, just a little bit from me. His sister Cheryl really wanted to be here, and her video is actually called God is Love. But as Dad passed, and Tara, where are you? You fucking made his world, girl. Yeah, seriously, you know, the universe, I've got two things I want to say that are really short for me. I thought I was coping really well, and I'd been really calm, because in the last 6 months, a good friend of mine told me to get out of the way and stop telling him about me, because he was probably trying to tell me about him. And so Mike and Dad and I had some amazing times and just listened to some amazing stories. And he really instilled in me God is love. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, well, absolutely. But it really started to sink in when I started going through some stuff and trying to clean up and seeing the photos. And thank you to everybody who sent piles of photos for Dad in his office. I made a slideshow after his stroke so that when his computer stopped, he'd just see all those faces. And I wrote a little poem, which is very short, and so thank you, Maureen, for that, because you really just gave him another breath of life. You really did. You really did. So this was on the 8th of January. I'd actually been with Dad. He went, as most of you know, he lived life to the full, and him and I used to have a joke. He's like, you know, if you're going to have a car, drive it like you stole it. We sort of joked about his physical vehicle in this world. He drove it like he stole it, and we'd had to go, and the doctor said, right, we want to take some x-rays and some blood tests, and just, you know, we can't deal with what's happening until we know. And I think that's when he went, all right, okay, I'm off to the next adventure, and, you know, hitchhiked out, and he went in his way very quickly. He was in hospital at 11:30 in the morning. Tara had phoned me the night before. We'd been up all night looking at what might be wrong, and he'd been moaning a little bit more than normal, and he'd for the first time actually started saying that he was in a bit of pain. He didn't say anything really before that. We were trying to force feed him food and water, and he just was saying to me, no, God is love. We are everywhere. And so the next day, or as I was driving back to the hospital, Tara called and said, you better get here. Because I'd gone home to get a T-shirt. It had been quite a long time over the few weeks. And I was really stupid. I was driving along the motorway going, I'm going to be really, really slow, and realised I was doing 70, and so I slowed down and got to the roundabout, and the car in front of me was just going so slow, and I just wanted to be there on time, and I'd phoned Tara, and I made the stupidest mistake of just pulling left up Trafalgar around that roundabout, and if another car had been coming it would have been very bad, but I felt through the window this like thump on my chest to the point where I pulled over and just sat, and I went, just phoned the hospital, and they said he's gone. And that's when I knew that he had just come to me and gone, slow down, you stupid woman. We're not going to have this. You're here for a while. So I felt that he was with me. And after he passed, I got to the hospital calm, and we hung out for a bit. And we had a bit of a joke, and then, I laughed with him, and his heart was still warm, and, he just looked beautiful. He looked at peace, and there was joy. There was just this beautiful, beautiful feeling about him. And so I was calm. And the next day I was going, okay, I'm going to write this little poem, and I wrote this, and a bit cryptic because I hadn't spoken to my brother about how we were going to break the news yet. And I don't often do Facebook because, I'm not even going to go into that one. But yesterday, someone very dear to my heart proved to me that God is love. True love. And we know that love is universal. Therefore, we must all have a bit of God in us. So that must mean we are all one. So, as I rise to face this day like the sunshine melting the rain away, I can feel his love melting away my pain, knowing that he eternally remains my heart, my love. I love you, Dad. Happy birthday. You fucking did it your style, man. We love you so very much. And then I put on some Fleetwood Mac to listen to it, and it was like, oh, Daddy, gonna make you. And I went, ah! But he got us to the end, so I'm going to quietly fossick in the corner and try and get his sister's video ready to play, because her video is also called God is Love, and I think there's a little bit of a theme creeping in here. Thank you for all coming. We love you. We love you.
Thank you, Josie. He procreated some lovely people, didn't he? I mean, there's sort of... would anyone else like to say something? We're going to keep it fairly brief from now on, because there's food on the table over there, and I think people would like to swap some stories amongst each other.
I'll give it a go.
You'll give it a go? Thank you. Who are you? Sorry?
I'm Matty. Yeah, I lived up at Verge's place for about 8 years in a house truck. And yeah, I remember Verge as being quite a prankster. Right into like this. I remember Verge being quite a prankster. And I was privy to a lot of comings and goings up there all the time. And most of them be classified for another 50 years, I think. But there was like the wars of Adam Jensen, who lived next door, and we called him Captain America, and Verge. And somehow I got not really stuck in the middle, but sometimes I was on Verge's side and sometimes I was on Adam's side. And I can't remember how it all started actually. I think it was a peacock that died of Captain America's, but this tit for tat sort of prankery started up, and it culminated. There was a few things that went down. I think me and Adam we snuck up there one time and we hung these dead rats in the doorway, so that when Verge's flatmate came in, who hated rats, and of course we took the light bulb out of the room and stuff. He opened the door and there's something flailing around in his face, and finally managed to put the lighter and freaked out screaming. And so Dave's like, right, we've got to get him for this. And somehow I was in Dave's camp at this stage. And So me and Dave snuck down there and chucked a tuna bomb in Adam's caravan while he was asleep and drunk and stuff, and the whole windows just went poof, blew out, and Adam sort of sat up for a bit and went back to sleep. And then I can't remember who came up with it, but me and Adam, we snuck up there and we found this mannequin's head, and it looked a bit like Susanna at the time and stuff, and it was all waxy and stuff. And so we waited until he was pissed and we snuck up to his room and we put this mannequin in his bed. Pulled the light bulb out so of course he couldn't see too well, and I covered it up like Susanna, and Verge went up there drunk as, and I jumped in the bed and Susanna, and we stroked her and it's all waxy and stuff, and he's like totally freaked out because she was dead. It culminated in the end. Verge called out the septic tank dude, and he's like, gets the septic tank pumped out, and in those days, I think you could spread the septic tank on rural land as long as it was like half a kilometre away from any property or something. And he says, I'll just spread it over there in the corner there, right next to Adam's place. And Adam was at work at the time, and he had quite a shanty-looking place that he lived in. And the guy's like, oh no, we can't put it next to any of your boat. That's 500 metres away. And Verge's like, oh no, it's like no one's lived there for years and stuff. Don't worry about it and stuff. So the dude's like, throws out the whole septic tank next to Adam's place, and he comes back, and I think that's when the peace arrangement came about, sort of thing. But yeah, I have many memories of Verge living on this land, and then of course Bodra came along, and then we ended up taking over the Rancho Relaxo, and Verge went to town, which is always going to be interesting. It was only a few weeks, and there was like man wave samurai sword at neighbour. And then I was evening mail and stuff. He's out there flailing around half naked with a samurai sword at his neighbour and things like this. But yeah, there's lots of good stories. I don't know if I can tell too many of them, but thank you very much.
I'm sure there's a lot more stories floating around there.
I don't know if you guys know who I am, but me and Verge were quite close together, because when I come over here from America, I was living at the surf club down in Tahuna here, and I came over here from America, and Verge finally found out who I was. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but anyhow, he come down, and I just happened to have some tent pegs, my tent. And in my tent pegs with tinfoil, I had my well-known guy in Maui help me put it together before I came to New Zealand. Anyhow, Verge come down, and I said, well, I'll pull out one of my pegs or a little stash I got. And when I pulled that out, we had a hard time talking to each other for some reason. Anyhow, after that, my name with Verge has never been Nick. It's always been called Maui Wowie. And in those days, we partied a lot at Marahau, and we partied a lot at the old Nelly in town here. And as we got closer and closer together, me and Verge were doing things that a lot of people probably didn't approve of. But anyhow, we loved each other and we held it together. And as time went on, I started running into people like Des Wilson and people like that, and then it just got bigger and bigger. But anyhow, I just wanted to make my speech and let you know that me and Verge were very, very close. And I have the other lady in my life with Verge was Stephanie. She was an amazing woman, and I always loved her, and I always will.
Stephanie, I wondered if you wanted to say anything. You want to say anything? few words? You probably know Verge better than most of us.
David and I were together for quite a few years, thanks, sweetheart. And we had some really good times together. Now I am going to tell you amazing, dope tales. Right, here we go. And I really thought about not saying this, but I'm going to. Yeah. My mum, when I was 30, my mum died, and I was a bit upset about that. Or no, not too much, but a bit. And so David saw this, and he said, I think you need to go away. We need to go away on a holiday. So off we went to Hamner Springs with substances, which will remain nameless, because they were very naughty substances. So, in the usual David and Stephanie fashion, he got drunk and I went to bed, which was fine. That was okay, it was cool. The next day we got up and I said, come on, we got to go, we're going off to Christchurch. So off we went, paid the bill, got in the car, off we went, and we were travelling towards Christchurch and we saw a police car coming towards us. And we both looked at each other. And it was one of those defining moments where you do not want to experience this again, ever. Because we knew what we'd done and we'd left various substances in the hotel. So anyway, that's my amazing dope tale. And part of my life with David. He was a good man sometimes and not a good man other times, but you couldn't help but love him. And we surely did love each other. Thanks.
Those of you who know Bruce King, he's with us here in spirit with his thousands of magpies and hundreds of fish and lots of memories of all really amazing people that went down and hung out with him. So he's sending his best wishes to you all. Loved Dad a lot, and he gave us a good place to have some fun. Also, Gus and Deb from Otago, Gus Blackgrove, wrote this, because they were going to come up as soon as they found out. So he said, hi Jyoti and Bodra, this is Gus. I'm unable to make Vergie's funeral. I'm really sorry about this. My wife Deborah is bedridden with the flu, and I've had to take care of the pets. However, I should like to take a few words on my behalf. I would be extremely unaccustomed to speaking in public as I am. I would be extremely grateful if you could read these words out at the time that the speeches are spoken. So the following will be on my behalf as well as my wife Deborah, the Southern Clan, namely Bill Tuffrey, Alan McLean, Mark Butler and Joe. Verge was an amazing man with a good heart and a wicked sense of humour. He could take you to the outer reaches of space and bring you right back again. He could get inside your heart and reverse the meaning of life. He could turn your life upside down and gently bring you back. Verge was a true prophet who had a unique parallel to Jesus. Yeah, go on, Dad. Somebody was going to say God and Son. It's love. Oh, I love him absolutely, and will also remember the adventures with fondest of joy. God bless you, Verge, and Godspeed. Thank you. Gus Blackgrove. One more here from Bev Columbus. So I don't know if those of you who know Bev and Dave and Shelley and Stephen used to come up. I used to play with them down at the river, and Bridget and all the little clan. We had our own clan at that stage. But I spoke to Bev, and she unfortunately, her Dave passed, and she misses him terribly. And she's actually said that with Dave passing now, both the Daves and many others are all together and waiting for us and preparing the next stage. But she saw some of the photos that we had here, and she said it just brought a whole new life of her love for her husband back. And so she says, maybe you could say was a part of our Christmases for 30 years. They used to come up every single summer. We'd wait for the Columbus's car to come up the driveway, and then the summer was started. The kids would separate and play hide and go seek with torches, and all the adults would go and get fucked up. A good friend and an unforgettable character who enriched the lives of everybody who knew him. A good man, gone too soon, but his memories will always be with us. Always. Regards, Bev, Michelle, Steve, Columbus. If Dave was here, we would have liked to have said our goodbyes together, but sadly not. Thank you, Jyoti and Bodra.
I've got Maddie's, but he talked about it.
Oh, there's another one.
Actually,
Maddie, can I read out? I'm going to read out Maddie's actually, because I know Maddie had a good story. But Maddie sent me and Bo this message, which I just love Maddie's writing. Where are you, Maddie? He's a wordsmith with a twisty tail. Hey, brother Bo and sister Jo. Sorry for being away from the phone since Petey Sandcastle told me. When he came out to mine and we reminisced about some of those antics of your dad and my friend, the friggin' legendary rascal, and that's what he was for sure, I'd defo get over Mun and see him off and see you at the boathouse and keep the light on in the house. I hope you both are navigating this journey too, together, as well as can be under the circumstances, and hopefully by now got used to the thought of the old man tapping out one of these days after such an unfeasibly long-winded and illustrious successful navigation of what could be called a damn near career of suitably rowdy and colourful antics and generally scallywaggish behaviour, with a damn near record-breaking, lengthy, lifetime amount of deliciously naughty circus acts, a spiritual acrobats that could only be possibly navigated without the loss of life and limb by such a skillfully great navigator of stormy seas and smooth breezes as our love, bloody rascal of a friend, father, ye old man, the downright infamous David Verge. Quotes, knighthood on the way, some would say. Thanks, Maddie.
I think it's probably time for you all to mingle and tell your own stories, all the ones you couldn't tell up here, because they were far too licentious. You can go and whisper them in the corners somewhere. There is food on the table over there. Mill around, enjoy yourself, and think about David on his birthday. Hello, we've got something. Oh, what's this? Wait on. Oh, I've just been handed something. Woody, light and love, old friend. I know. Oh, it's from Woody. Is it from Woody? Yeah. Light and love, old friend. I know I'll. Fucking? No, not fucking. Okay. Something meet you in the next life. Right? Okay. Now, Josie, did you want to say something?
Cheryl has taken the time to make a video.
Hi, Cheryl here. I'm not really sure what to say at this, other than I wish I was with you all, but you know, not possible at this time, and that's okay. I plan on coming in March, hopefully. That's my plan, and hopefully I'll get to see a lot of you then, and if not, that's okay too. I'm just going to keep this as short as possible. I'm not used to making videos, so bear with me. There's going to be a lot of ums. I was very proud of my brother. Growing up with him, even then, it was an adventure. He never stopped having adventures. He was not only my big brother, he was also like a teacher to me. He taught me a lot of things. His imagination was just so wonderful. He saw the world in a different way, and that taught me to see the world in a different way. There were so many things, so many stories that I could tell, so many adventures that I went on when I was a child with David. But the main thing that I remember was that he was always gentle. He always, thought of, and was concerned about me and my family, even though he, his own personal feelings, he had always kind of put aside. And because of his gentleness, he took on things that a lot of people would not have. And the main thing is that he wanted to see more of the world. He wanted to experience more people, and he did so. And when he came back, he shared those adventures, and I always thought that they were so exotic and wonderful, and I used my imagination to a different extent. I often referred to him as, because of the age difference between us, between my parents and me, I had pretended that he was my dad. And I know that's a silly thing, but I was a child, and I liked looking at him because in his exotic travels, I could tell all my friends that, yes, my dad was traveling the world, and, he was this great explorer, etc., etc. Great imagination that I had. I think that all of us in our family have. It was hard when he decided to make his, when he made his decision to leave the country altogether. I know that there were circumstances around that, not necessarily good, but he went so far away, and I thought that I would never ever see him again. And that wasn't true. I saw him several times in New Zealand and really, really appreciated, the crazy adventures that we went on when I was there. I probably drove him crazy, not only as a child, but probably, as an adult. Of course, coming from Canada, I was a city girl, going to the farm, sort of thing, to Marahau, which I immediately, in my imagination, thought of as a magical place. At the same time, it was a different experience. I probably frustrated a lot of people that were there. I do apologize for that, but, like I say, I was a Canadian city girl and not exactly familiar with what was happening, if you will. I did learn about it and what it all meant, sort of thing, later. And that was a good thing because it encouraged my mind to open up. And that was another thing that Dave did, was that he encouraged my mind to open up. We had corresponded through mail, snail mail as it's now called, and a lot, and his letters were so beautiful and so elegant, and unfortunately I don't have one at hand to even, share a bit of. But it was almost like poetry in itself. And his gift of words, as I'm sure that almost all of you knew, was kind of wonderful. It was intriguing, When he came here on the couple of occasions when he had come back to Canada, We had some fun. You know, I remember those too because I got to see him as an adult, and that was fun too. Because I felt more equal to him. I obviously got over the fact that no, he wasn't my father or my parent, etc. And but at the same time, you know, he was cool to hang out with, right? He also taught me a lot of things and inspired me to, you know, his artistic talents of carving, for one. That encouraged me to give it a try. I still carve today, and I enjoy it, and I always think of him when I'm doing it. I have 2 pieces that he carved a long time ago, and I treasure them, and I look at them, and they have a reflection of David and who he was. I feel that I am quite privileged to have them. His other art forms were quite lovely, but not only was he artistic, he was a fun-loving guy. I was looking through pictures and trying to get some together. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to get them to you, so maybe at a later date I could bring them with me. But a lot of them, in fact almost every one of them, he's smiling, and sometimes he was doing goofy things, and not just because he was on camera. I mean, that's what he did. You know, he would act silly and always encouraging people to sort of laugh. And that's what I remember of him. You know, I mean, like, he was a human being and he had faults, and I realized that. And I like to think of him and remember him as his, you know, smiling, fuzzy face sort of thing. And that's what I will carry in my heart forever. And I'm sure a lot of you will do the same. I'm going to stop now, and I wish you all the best and hope to see you in my spring, your fall. Okay, bye. Love you.
Beautiful stained glass windows. They're all happy houses. I mean, it was a
Enjoying your holiday? Yeah, my experience with Verge is quite different from some of the other stories. I've got lots of amazing stories, but what I remember mostly is how much we learned from Verge, and it was about inner space, because he would come over to the house. Often we'd sit by the fire. He knew we didn't like nicotine smoke, so he would have the smoke going up the chimney, and we didn't like, well, smoke in general. And he and my husband would have long essays together, and mostly about inner space, but all kinds of stories from Verge, which were invariably funny. But so much of what they said, you know, I learned a lot, but it was way beyond me. And in the end, my husband actually wrote a book about, I can't think of the word, attempting to get to inner space by using lucid dreams, because we're very interested in getting to inner space by other means. And that was what their discussions were often about.
Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love is how to shoot somebody. Cheers, Verge.
And it's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a
He didn't tell me about that one when I first started visiting him. He told me to go swimming there because that was the best swim hole.
Long life. Go with a long life. It's a good one.